please subscribe to Books on Toast. It's a great show. It's one of the funniest interviews that I've done, and every show I've watched of theirs is so wonderful. And more than anything else, when you subscribe, you will learn about books, you're going to tell other people about books, and there will be a greater culture of book reading, which just enriches all of us.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Books on Toast interview of the one and only Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni. Yay, we're so excited.
We're so excited.
Thank you,
Thank
you.
Welcome Chitra to our show.
Thank
to
you.
introduce everybody to who Chitra is. If you don't know who she is, please get
out of that rock, guys.
Yeah. Chitra is the celebrated author of one of my favorite books of all time. It's called The Palace of Illusions, which has just hit 10 years. So that's amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
She's also the author of Mistress of Spices. And her new book, The Forest of Enchantments, just came out. And we've just spent Anuya and I have spent the last 1 week reading about it. And it's an amazing read. So welcome, Chitra, to our episode.
Thank you.
So Chitra, as Sharin said, we've just finished reading Forest of Enchantments and we truly loved it. We loved it. And for those of you who don't know, it's the story of it's Ramayan told from Sita's perspective. So it's basically Sitayan. And that's what she did with Palace of Illusions as well, right?
Yes.
She told the Mahabharata from Draupadi's point of view. And we've spoken about Palace of Illusions in our Indian Literature We Love episode. In context of this book and that book, what made you start writing the story of the stories that we all know from the women's perspective?
Well, I was very excited to write these books because I've been thinking about women in the epics for a long time. Women in the epics, I heard those stories when I was little. I heard them from my grandfather, then I read them in Amar Chitra Katha, then, all of that. So they're very much in our consciousness. They're very much a part of the Indian reading psyche, the Indian living psyche, right? And a lot of times these women are either held up as icons or cautionary figures. So I wanted to retell these stories from the woman's point of view, because the originals are all told, they're very heavily male-centered.
Yes.
The Ramayana and the Mahabharata. They're told by wonderful storytellers. They're very male-centered. But the women, you only get glimpses of them. True. So I wanted to kind of upset that balance and focus in Forest of Enchantments on Sita. So she's telling her own story, as you know. And she's telling how it feels right from her girlhood through when she falls in love with Ram. Then they're in the forest, which is like a prolonged honeymoon, and they love it. And then her troubles start, she's abducted, and then onwards. So how does it feel at all of those moments? How does she see the world? That's
the story.
Yes, and how does she deal with her ultimate challenges? Because my belief and hope is that Sita is very iconic for our times. She's a very modern woman in many ways. And I think in this time of Me Too and the other movements that are going on, Sita's story is very relevant to everyone, but especially Indian women. And I hope many of my readers will connect to her.
That's so beautifully put. In fact, when I was reading the book, I realized that it's not just Sita's story, but it's also all the women who were living in and around the times of the Ramayana. And it's her mother's story, who was the actual ruler, Sunaina.
The behind the scenes, yes.
Behind the scenes. And then, of course, her sister Urmila, and then Ahalya, Kekai, and Surpanakha. The way the story patriarchally has been portrayed ever since we've been reading it as children is always from the male perspective. And women, like you said, are either cautionary tales or just there. Yeah. Simply there to just move the narration forward.
Yes.
So the question really here is that, what is that one singular message that you do want your readers to take back home after they do finish reading The Forest of Enchantment?
I think I want them to rethink Sita's character because, like you said, she's iconic. She's been held up as a role model for Indian women, but I feel for all the wrong reasons. Yeah. The popular narrative has her being very meek, kind of long-suffering, always in distress, looking to others to rescue her. Yeah. But that is not her truth. If you really go back to the original Valmiki and the many Ramayans that I researched, she is a very strong, character. She deals with immense difficulties with elegance, grace, and strength. And that is the message I want men and women today to have from Sita's character. And so that when we are telling our young women, be like Sita, that is the Sita I want them to be like.
Wow, that's a lovely message. Everybody read this book and then be like, take moral lessons and write about them in your journals and do Instagram poetry about them, because that's how you get to the young people in this.
Yes, yes.
So I want to ask you, was this tough to do though? Because this world is so patriarchal and it is so Ram-centric and it is so... I mean, while I was reading the book, I realized that a lot of the stuff that happens, she questions in her mind, but she really doesn't have much agency or power over her own life. Even though she's constantly wondering whether or not she should go ahead and do something because it is expected of her, simply because it's expected of her. So because this world is so patriarchal, because women are even constantly victim blamed or victim shamed and are made to pay for other people's mistakes, was it hard to create a character that is constantly trying to rise above, rather, when I say create, or rather interpret? And how did you do this without straying too far from the original, narrative?
Yeah. So one of the challenges that I set myself for this, as well as Palace of Illusions, is I did not want to stray from the narrative. Okay? Because in some ways it's easy to write a story where you've changed the whole story, and then you can change the character.
Yeah.
And in some ways it's more challenging to stick to that storyline, but interpret the character differently and say, hey, all this time you guys were told she's like this.
Yeah.
But really look at what she's doing.
Okay.
Look at how she's thinking.
Yeah.
And you will see that interpretation of her character was not correct.
Yeah.
That was really a very patriarchal interpretation of Sita. You think for yourself. Here she is in all these very difficult situations, and how does she manage to rise above them? Even when, just like many of us in the world, we aren't able to change the outer circumstances, how can we be strong in ourselves? And instead of being victims, we become agents of our own life. So Sita says, maybe I can't change the outside things, but I will live on my own terms.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when I have to say no, I will say no on my own terms.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of important for everybody, men and women. I really feel that, more men should also read books that are women-centered. I mean, women have been doing that all these centuries, so,
What
men should
options do we
also
have?
men should also do it, because it helps the understanding of the opposite gender.
Yeah.
So, to see Sita as someone who is in her own very dignified way,
Yeah.
and her own very mature way, she stands up and says, no, I'm not going to put up with this. And there's a scene where, a very painful scene in the book where Ravan has been defeated, Ram has won, and Sita is delighted to be reunited with him, and he says, but I can't take you back to Ayodhya because you are
You're tainted,
considered
yeah.
impure.
Yeah.
And so she says, she's like devastated. He says, you can go where you want. And you can live with whoever you want. I cannot take you back to Ayodhya. And it wasn't an easy decision for him. I hope I've shown Ram as a nuanced character also. But he feels that as a king, it is his duty. And so, so another big misunderstanding of this book, or of the popular interpretation, is they think Ram asks her to go into the fire for Agni Pariksha.
Yeah.
No.
That is
She
not
does it
true.
herself, yeah.
Even in Valmiki, she's the one who does it. She says, she calls for the fire. She says, okay, I can't control how you will treat me, but I can control how I'm going to live the rest of my life. And I'm going to live or die on my own terms, like the fire, I'm going to step into it. So it's a moment of great empowerment. And I think, I'm hoping that it's a message for many people, men and women, but especially women, who find themselves sort of at a dead end. Because she shows it's never a complete dead end. We always have the choice of how to respond to what's happening to us.
That's true.
Wow.
It is.
Every time she talks, I want to be like,
I know.
Please, don't restrict yourself. Go for it.
so if the Ramayana is Ram's story and the Sitayan is Sita's story, what is a Dayan? But I am dying to know the answer, guys.
Okay. So here is this thing. Here's this thing. That was a nice pun. Nice pun. Okay.
So do not encourage, please.
Do not
Can you
encourage.
please pat me on the back?
Here. Pat, 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 pat.
I'm
Both
not
sides
able
of
to
the
hear
back.
the end of this.
She's a teacher, so this is extra special.
You know, as a teacher, we are told never put down your students, so even when they say not the smartest things.
That was very well done.
But-
Okay, so I do, yeah.
I just want to go back to what you said. So the Ramayana is kind of Ram's story, but the Sitayan is really the story, the way I've interpreted it, of all the women
Yeah, like
in the
you
Ramayana
mentioned,
who did
correct.
not get their time in the limelight, who didn't get their
Yeah.
stories told
Yeah.
properly.
Yeah.
So Sita says that I'm going to try and tell these women's
These women's
stories
stories,
also.
yes.
And some of these stories, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
are fascinating.
Yeah.
Like what happens to Urmila, again, her own quiet tragedy to be left alone in that palace for 14 years and how she deals with it in this book. You know,
Mandodari, I thought
Mandodari.
was so fascinating. Oh my God.
and how tragic to be in that situation
Yeah.
at once so powerful as a queen and so powerless as a
Yeah,
wife.
yeah.
So, you know, I think Sita is aware of these women and she's aware of these nuanced situations, even when she's in conflict with them, like with Mandodari, even with Surpanakha.
Yeah,
Right?
she empathizes.
She empathizes.
And actually,
Yeah, of course.
Surpanakha is painted as a very sympathetic character in
She
this
has
book.
her problems,
Yeah,
but,
but
we also
yeah.
see the other side. I mean, what was her crime?
Yeah.
It's
Really, like, exactly.
Yeah.
It's
Men, I
unfair,
tell you.
very unfair.
she wanted a man who didn't want her, but I mean there may have been other ways to resolve
Yes,
that issue.
Instead of
Yes,
cutting off
yes,
the nose,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
seriously, what was that?
That's called a classic overreaction, guys.
Exactly.
These men, they overreact to everything.
All right, I didn't make that remark.
So, Chitra, you did mention that and you do also mention it in the introduction of the book as well, which is also, I think, so well written. It's one of those rare books where every word in it is so amazing. Like, the introduction is a story in itself.
Yeah.
So, you did mention that you did a lot of research while putting this book together, and I want to know is which were the books that were good and which were the books that were too patriarchal, that gave a very skewed picture of the Ramayana.
Or just bad.
Okay.
Well-
No, actually, the Ramayans that have come down to us over the ages,
Yeah.
they have survived because they're very good books. They are wonderful stories that are told. The angle is different. They are very male-centered.
Yeah.
Books are generally reflective of their times and their societies. So that's what
Sure.
they have done.
Sure.
So the Valmiki Ramayana is absolutely an iconic text. I used a lot of it, right? And that was very interesting. My main source is the Kritibasi Ramayana from 15th century Bengal, because I'm from Bengal, so I grew up reading that book.
Okay.
And that is very interesting because in many places it gives a little more of the woman's story. And it gives a little more, like Sita says a lot more. We still don't get much of her thoughts, but at least she's speaking a lot more. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Well, one example is, and Ram is speaking a lot more in a different way. So I'll give you one example of Ram and one of Sita. So after Sita gets married, at the wedding, you know, there are lots of jokes and all going on. So the Sita's women, you know, her girlfriends and all that, they're teasing Ram. They're saying, you know, Sita is so nice and fair. You are so dark. What is this? This is not a good match. And Ram says, it's okay. As we continue to live together, some of her fairness will rub off on me. Which is a very nice and, it's nice and kind of, you know, sweet interchange with Ram, whom otherwise we always see as this very strict and proper person. And then there's another moment in Kritibas where she's going off now to the forest, and of course the in-laws don't like it. And so Kaushalya is saying, now you're going off to the forest, and I'm only letting you go because you better take good care of Ram. You make sure he eats the proper food and all of that. And she says, very sweetly, in her way, because Sita is never, you know, in your face. She says, Mother, you know, my mom has taught me how to take care of my husband. You don't need to tell me how to do it. So you know, there are these lovely human moments in Kritibas, which I really liked and
Did you
I
read
wanted.
it in Bengali?
I read it in Bengali, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. And then there is the Kamba Ramayan from the south, which is also very interesting because Ravan is portrayed with great nuance. In general, in the south, Ravan is portrayed much more positively than in the
Yes.
north.
Yeah.
And that was very interesting for me to read because I wanted Ravan also to be a very nuanced character. And what people sometimes don't think of is the whole thing started because he wanted revenge for his sister. He
Yeah.
wanted to right
Yeah.
that wrong.
Yeah.
And in this book, when Sita is very upset with him and she's saying, what is this? You know, you come, you steal me away, you coward, why don't you come and fight with him? He says, you know, Ram has killed a lot of my people already.
Yeah.
I don't want him to kill more.
Yeah.
And I think this is a much more strategic way of righting that wrong than face-to-face battle. And
Yeah.
I mean, he has a point.
He has a
He
point.
says, I'm not going to sacrifice more of my people for some kind of pride. I'm going to do it the way I think.
No, I did
is
also
best.
really enjoy the portrayal of Ravan in this book.
Yeah,
And
that's
yeah, I think.
I think our great epics live on and continue to resonate within us because they don't take that easy path of this is good and this is bad. When you
Yeah.
really think of the situations, it's very mixed. And that is human life.
Yeah.
And
That's why
what
we
makes it
can.
interesting.
Yes, and that's why they still relate to
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
So you, like you rightly said, like a lot of the literature is about the times and it's written about the times. So you have to like have that perspective when you're reading a lot of this text. The one issue that I've always had while reading about literature that's based in, you know,
The past.
the past, and is that there is a dichotomy of female representation. There's been stuff that's written with says that the Hindu kings were actually very benevolent and very open-minded and women had a good stature in society. And then there is the exact opposite where women were traded, like they were used for, you know, political espionage and things like that. So why do you think that dichotomy exists?
In our interpretation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what happened.
Yeah, well, I think it's largely a question of who is doing the interpretation because I think a lot of times they have their own biases
Yeah.
and they are looking at probably both things existed, but some people have, you know, focused on one and some people have focused on the other. So now also I think there is a tendency in all cultures, I'm sure, but right now very much here, that we want to say everything about India, especially the past, especially these things like the epics, everything was wonderful. Okay? Even the writers of the epics did not want to show that. They wanted to show life as it was. So I think it's very important for us to say everything is great and wonderful. These epics are marvelous, but look, they portray good and bad. Because that's
Yeah.
always the case. They portray women also as good and bad, which is always the case. That is the natural way for men and women to be. Let's accept that. Let's not hold women up to some impossible standard.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
In fact, I mean, if you look at literature that comes out today, it's the same, right? There's women like us, or even the society the way it is. There are women like us. We have all the power and choice and live liberal lives and you know decide when to get married, whether or not to have kids. And then there are women living in probably the same building who don't.
Yes.
Whose parents marry them off when they're 20 and who have to play
Who
the
have to
beautiful wife
then
and
have to go that route.
Yeah, who have to,
And
so
not to
I
speak
get it.
about women in the cities versus women in the small towns or
Exactly, yeah,
countries. So
yeah.
all is happening at
all
the same
happening,
time.
It's existing.
Yeah.
That's just the way things will always be, I suppose. You know, there will never be one universal truth.
No, there's never. And India is not the only country, in the US also, no one universal truth. So I think good books try to show that, that things are, so many things are all happening at the same time.
So you're teaching creative writing in the University of Houston,
Yeah.
am I right? So as a teacher, you're dealing with students who are all sort of trying to use writing and tell new stories.
Yes.
So what is the weirdest question that anybody has ever asked you? She's like, she's going to ask me something deep about being a teacher. No. Tell me something weird and funny.
Let's see. Sometimes people ask me when they read something in my books, that did this really happen to you? So the larger writing question is, do you have to experience something
Okay.
in order to be able to write it?
Write
And
what you know.
what's the answer?
I say, no, oh my goodness, actually my life is very boring because most of my time is in front of the computer, right? If I were off having adventures,
Yeah.
when would I write the books?
Hunker down and write.
That's what I tell my
Stick to
students.
deadlines.
Exactly. And my students don't like to hear it because they would like me to tell them, oh, well, go off and have these adventures and go live these risky lives.
For 14 years. They'll come back, you're like, मेरे को malaria हो गया.
Exactly. Even Sita suffers from the mosquitoes. Sita's like, the forest is not all that you think it is.
Okay, when it also moving on from there, you're also a poet and you've written some incredible poetry.
Thank you.
But I'm sure you are aware of the Instagram creed of poetry.
Oh. All right, so this is my rule. I don't badmouth other writers because everyone is doing the best they can. Now, I really truly
Sadly.
believe that. I really truly
said a
believe
lot.
that.
Okay. Okay, but can we
And
play a game?
every writer has their audience, right? So
That's true.
clearly
Yeah.
what they're writing is
Yeah.
touching someone.
Yeah.
And isn't it better to be touched by a poem
Yeah.
than to be touched by other?
A man?
No, I mean that is a whole other
Beings?
thing.
Circumstances.
to be touched by, let's say,
Kittens?
video games.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
this
if
is-
you're going for entertainment, better be entertained by a poem than all these other forms of entertainment.
Okay,
It is
but-
still
but-
literature. She's
but,
right.
But can we play a game? It's a game. It's a
Okay,
game, okay?
okay.
And if you don't like it, we'll cut it from the video. So don't
Okay,
worry,
all
okay?
right.
So we're going to play a game with you. It's called Real or Made Up,
Okay.
okay?
Oh.
I'm going to...
So I have to guess
You
if
have
it's
to guess,
real
yeah.
or made up.
I'll read out a poem and she'll read out a poem and you have to guess whether or not it's real or did one of us make it up last night.
Okay.
Okay.
But here's a problem. If you wrote it, it's still a poem. It's just written by you.
No, okay. Has it been published on Instagram or not?
And
Alright.
1,000 likes or no? Yeah. Although after I went through Instagram poetry, I was like, why am I not doing this? I will know it. I'm being ironic. Nobody else will. But I will make so much money.
I have also had that thought.
Yeah, we should do it. We should all do this.
It's great.
Okay, real or made up. Ready?
Okay.
And I played this. I tried this with people who they didn't get
I'm
it.
sure even
Yeah,
I
they
won't
didn't
get
it.
it. I'm sure
So,
even I won't get it.
Okay, is this real or is this
And
made up?
if I can't answer right, that means you could go on Instagram and
Yes,
make millions.
yes.
right?
Means
There
that
you
my
go.
business plan has been validated. So
Right.
I'm looking for investors. That's what
Right,
it is. Yeah.
right.
Stay soft. It looks beautiful on you.
Real.
She's correct. It's
1
real.
point for Chitra.
It's Naira Waheed. Yeah.
Who wrote it?
Naira Waheed. Yeah. But it's a sentence. Anyway, no, I'm also not good. I'm going to be like Chitra.
The high road. But like Sita. Sita, she
Yes,
takes the high
The
road.
high road. Sure.
Okay. It wasn't it wasn't you I was kissing. Don't be mistaken. It was him on my mind. Your lips were just convenient.
Real.
She's correct.
Damn it!
Which is by world famous spoken word sensation called Rupee Kaur.
Rupee Kaur.
Okay. The scars that I carry, you cannot see. They're on my bones, they're on my teeth, they're on my soul, they're on my mind.
Not real.
Damn it, she's good! She's so good! We are
a
losing this.
teacher. I knew she'd ace it.
She must read this every day and file away what she actually thinks, which will come out in a memoir one day.
My secret vice.
Yeah. Which will be really fun to read.
Yeah, we will buy, don't worry.
What I never said until this moment by Chitra Banerjee. Oh, I'll read that book.
I think we should do one more.
Yeah.
Eat. Fill yourself with energy and sunlight. Treat your body. to tenderness and lavender.
Real?
God damn it!
It's like amazing, yes.
We have been
again,
beaten.
A great sensation of spoken word called Amanda Lovelace.
I hope she has
People,
Lots
applause,
Yes.
applause.
Hands down. That's
beaten at her own game by the master.
But really, on that note, what hopes do you have from the future generations of writers? Because you must also, observe a lot from your students who are, year on year. I mean, is the standard getting better or more diverse? Where is it going?
Yeah. Well, as far as my students are concerned, I'm very blessed because I teach in a very highly rated creative writing program, really rated nationally, internationally. So we get the best students. And we get students who are extremely serious about their work. And they work very hard at it. And they often publish their books even while they're in the program. Their first book will come out, then they'll be working on their second book. So I'm really seeing the best. And I see so much wonderful writing, that I'm constantly learning from my students. So I feel very blessed. But I realize this is one sector. And these are not the students who are, they realize that maybe they'll make money, but maybe they won't. That's secondary to them. They really want to create some good books, some great literature that comments on society, that comments on, the conditions of men, women, races, race relationships. They're writing serious work.
Right.
So
and are you
I see-
reading any interesting things that you can recommend
Yeah.
to our readers? Like, what are your reading habits?
Yeah, I mean, I love reading. I often read like what my next project is. So I'll read in like that genre. So when I was writing the Sita novel, I was reading a lot of epic writing. But now that that is written, my next project is going to be a historical novel
Oh, okay.
with a strong woman at its center. No surprise.
All right.
Rest of it is going to remain a surprise. So I'm reading Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel.
Oh, of
So,
course. That's,
yeah.
that's another kind of epic.
Yes, really, really. It's a historical epic,
is,
which
it is.
I hope my next novel will be.
Okay.
It'll be epic and historic.
So what are your guilty pleasures? Like what are the books and authors that you love to read because you just
I thought you
enjoy
meant
them?
other kinds of
We
guilty
can talk
pleasures.
about those as well. Valentine's Day is coming.
Yes, and my husband's somewhere there in the audience.
Yeah, maybe we should ask him to come sit and give us a few answers.
Maybe next time. My guilty pleasures, I love reading mysteries and suspense.
Okay.
Yeah, I love reading fantasy.
Okay.
I love.
You've written also fantasy
Yes,
as well.
I have written the Conch Bearer series
yes.
for young adults, but really for all who are young at heart. It's set in India and it's magical and it goes back to, again, epic and myth, but it's a present time story.
Okay.
So I love those kinds of books.
But recommend one.
Recommend one? Okay, I have to go back and recommend one of my joys that I reread many times, which is The Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
I love that one. And I've just learned so much from Tolkien.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot about especially world creation from his book. Very much. And I also love Philip Pullman. He has a trilogy. Yes.
Dark Materials.
Yes, Dark Materials, starting with The Golden Compass, which I love and I recommend to everybody.
They're coming up with a new movie.
Yeah.
New
They had one-
series. They're doing a series.
Okay, because they did one on
Yeah,
Golden
which was
Compass,
horrible.
which was okay. I didn't say it. You said it.
So speaking of
Speaking of movies,
movies, Palace of Illusions is being adapted.
It is
Congratulations!
being- thank you.
And I believe N.R. Pachisia has bought the rights, but he's producing, right?
Yes, he's
Yeah,
a
see,
producer.
I-
So you are in the know.
Of
You are in the
course.
business,
I'm in
of
the
course.
And Anand Neelkantan is writing the...
Kind of, sort of.
Okay.
I think he has a new project, so there may be a team of people of whom he's part.
And how are you apprehensive? Are you excited? How are you feeling about it?
Yeah,
what are your
all
thoughts?
of those things. I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to it, and I mean, I hope it will be close to the book, which is what writers always hope. We'll see.
Because
It's early days. I'm excited at the thought of it becoming a movie.
Yes.
Because I think that always brings out some other things. And especially this book has so much like visual richness.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
palace itself, the palace of illusion, so visually rich. So I would be excited to see how that happens. Yeah.
Is there any, sort of hope that you have from the filmmakers about what they should do and do justice to correctly? Only because this would be a first of its kind, like a story like this to be told on this mass scale. Because it'll be like a full Bollywood movie, and I mean, your entire Indian landmass will watch it.
Yes.
So,
hope
what expectations do you? Really
I
have
just
from
hope
them?
that they will interpret Panchali's character, Draupadi's character, well.
Okay.
To show her in all her nuanced
Yeah.
elements, all the facets.
And who would you cast? If you could cast anyone as Panchali, who
Oh
would you
gosh.
cast?
Okay, I'll answer this question, but then you guys also have to
Sure,
answer.
yeah.
It, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, I don't know. I want to say Deepika Padukone.
That's everybody's answer.
Yeah.
That
But
was
she
easy.
would make. She has that regal ability, right?
And we've seen her
In
portray-
period roles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like Vidya Balan would have done.
I think of Vidya Balan would also. That's like my
more
another
mature.
choice.
No, I don't know.
Yes, but in the beginning she is much younger.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
just-
Yeah.
Okay, that brings us to the clickbait round.
Yes. Okay. Great. So we mostly end all our discussions with like
A game.
engaging segment where we try to get you to play a game. This is a bonus episode because we played 2.
Yeah.
So
All right,
what
all
we're gonna
right.
do-
And I won the last one.
You
Yes.
did.
So
You
even
won
if I lose this one,
it.
I'm
It's
in
fine.
a
There are
good.
no wrong answers.
Okay.
Only people who don't ask questions.
Yeah.
All right. Yes.
I will also teach one day.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Okay, so what we're going to do is ask you to reimagine the titles of these popular books if they were written from the feminist perspective.
Oh gosh. Okay, this might take me time. I'm a slow thinker.
It's okay, you go.
We'll put a loading icon.
Yeah, don't worry. You can really put thought behind this because I have labored to put this list together by just covering best-selling books of New York Times. Anyway, the first one is The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
Okay, let me see.
Are there female monks?
Monkeses.
Yeah?
Yes.
Wow, I'm dumb.
The monkeys who doesn't need a Ferrari.
Yeah. I was thinking the monk is. It's a funny word. I'm sorry.
That's a mic drop title.
The
right
monk
there.
is-
She doesn't need it.
The monk is who bought a Ferrari.
Who bought a Ferrari?
Okay.
She bought it herself.
Yes.
Then she sold it, but
Yeah.
first she
And
bought
made
it.
a profit.
Yeah.
That's our whole.
That's the whole plot also.
Yes.
Okay.
The monkeys who bought her own Ferrari and sold it at a profit. There you go. That's women's entrepreneurship.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a great like startup story right there.
There you go. There you go.
Okay, Hannibal.
Hannibal में औरत कौन है?
नहीं है ना? अगर होती तो.
अच्छा.
What if
Oh,
the
अगर-
character
what
was?
if Hannibal was a woman?
Yeah.
All right.
Wow,
Give me some help.
Tough. Yeah. I'll have Hannibala.
So I thought it would be Hannibal because
Ah.
Annabelle and Hannibal equals Hannibal.
Hannibal. Nice.
Okay, Hannibal. I think that
Fine.
is good.
Yeah. ये तो so we
Or-
just made it girl.
Or
Yeah.
to make it Indian, Hanubala.
Yeah.
Hanubala.
There you go. All right.
Okay, The Little Prince.
The just right sized princess.
claps.
which is all of us women, just the
Correct.
right
Just
size.
the right size.
In
Tell my mother
each.
that.
We are. See, that there's another patriarchal look at women.
Correct.
Yeah, women of
Absolutely.
all sizes are just right.
Body positivity right here. Okay, the Harry Potter series.
Oh, the Hari Patel series.
Harry Potter.
But Hari is a boy, no?
Why? Could be girl also.
Okay, fine. It could be girl. Why am I generalizing? I thought the easiest thing is make it Hermione.
The Hermione Granger series.
The Hermione. But I want it Indian.
By Joan Rowling. I think that is the important part.
Yes, yes. And that is actually a serious thing because a lot of writers, even the other day, on Twitter. They're saying I was having a chat with She the People, and they're like, how can we get more women writers published? And this guy said, just put your initials, don't put the full woman's name because publishers like it. And I said, we have to fight that.
Yeah.
We cannot let that become that norm by kind of bowing to it and continuing it.
As readers, I have never given a shit if it was written by a man or a woman as long as it was a good book.
As long as it was a good book.
So, but I'm a girl.
Yeah.
I wonder what men think.
But what
exactly.
do you think about this topic? I mean, isn't this like an age-old discussion that, people have been having for, I think, decades now? That if you're a man, you are more, it's
likely
easier
to
read.
sell, yeah.
And I'm sure you must be asked this question all the time.
Yeah.
So my answer is always the same. Write the best book you can and be yourself and push for it. Push for it, right? I don't want to accept and continue that stereotype. Unless we push, how are we going to change anything?
Absolutely. We are with you.
We are with you.
हम तुम्हारे साथ हैं. चित्रा बनर्जी आगे
साथ
बढ़ो.
साथ है.
हम सब साथ हैं. Okay, thank you so much.
Yes, I did good with the. Did I win that game also?
Yes, you won all the games.
Yes.
And when I get off the show, there'll be a prize for me.
Hugs.
Hugs are good.
Hugs and love and a lot of promotion of this book.
That is very good. That is very good. That is
fresh air.
Yes. So we are also, our readers though are always winners because they are going to be getting signed copies of The Forest of Enchantments.
Yes.
Signed by Chitra, and we will be announcing a giveaway contest soon as well. So do keep your eyes out on all our social media handles.
That's true.
And thank you so much, Chitra, for joining us.
Thank you.
It was an absolute delight for me to be talking to you and sitting next to you. I mean, like, blah, blah, blah.
Thank you. You were so wonderful. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you guys for watching. Please go buy The Forest of Enchantments. It's a superb book, and both men and women should read this because it's very important for our times. Share this video, because if you don't share it, then how will we do better?
In life.
And if we don't do better, then how will we spread the gospel of reading?
Yes. And how will we get the Ferrari
That is a
and
good.
sell it?
And how will we go on foreign vacations? All these things are important.
Yes, survival.
Basics. So please share this video and please subscribe to our channel, and please leave comments on what you thought about the stuff that we spoke about, and also about this book and all the other books that you love by Chitra that you've read, and anything else you want to talk about, really. We don't care. Just talk to us.
And come on all of our social media and tell us how much you love the show, and if you love the book, please tell. If you don't love the book, please don't say anything.
Just talk to your friends about it. We don't need to know.